Doctor and Call comes to you compliments Hills and Valley Pharmacy and the Spice Isle Imaging Center.
Drug abuse, cancer,
measles, diabetes, AIDS, cancer.
Good evening once again. Welcome to our live Doctor and Call program for this evening. It is the 16th day of May 2023. This evening we're talking about health and wellness, and this is very, very important. I'm sure, in fact, earlier this evening I was chatting with someone, and of course, it's something you hear quite a lot. So many young people are dying, and they're getting sick, and you go to the hospital and you see so many young people there, and people are wondering what is going on. So health and wellness is very important. It's very, very important. And this evening we have a very special guest with us, Miss Barbra Chichester. She is a health and wellness coach, and she will be sharing with us a lot of very important information that we can use. Of course, on the program we put information out so you can take it and help to better your health. Very, very important. Your health starts with you. All right. Of course, Dr. Nixon with us as always, and we will be having a wonderful discussion. So let's say welcome. Doc, good evening and welcome again.
Good evening, Godfrey. Good evening, Barbara, whom I've known like almost forever. I met you the first day I went to convent. We're not going to see what year that is, okay?
No, don't
but
say
I met you the very first day because Barbara was in class with my cousin, and they were in Form 4, I was in Form 1.
Right, wonderful.
That's how long I've known her.
Well, that's a good thing.
But it's nice to have you on this program. Thank you for joining us. Good evening, Godfrey, and good evening to Grenada.
Yes, it is.
It's nice being here despite the heat that is so draining. It's really, really hot for most of us, and I remember we reminded people last week to remain hydrated, to drink water, coconut water, stay in the shade between 12 and 3. If you can avoid being outside, please do not go outside. If you have outside work to do, start early in the morning. 5:30 is already daylight. As much as possible, stay out of the sun because it's really hot, and it could be more damaging than good.
Okay, thank you very much. So let's welcome our guest with us, Mr. Chester. Welcome. It's a pleasure to have you in the program. How are you?
Well, good evening. Evening to Grenada, and thank you for having me on. It's such an honor and a pleasure, and it's nice to be with Dr. Nixon. I have to say that because I've been friends a long time. But what an honor, because I think this is such an important, a fundamental time for everyone. I'm just glad to be here.
Yes, it did. And I have to thank you because it was extremely short notice for you to be here. And of course, you made yourself available. So we are very thankful for that as well. But just before we get into our discussion, take a minute and tell us about yourself. Tell us who is Barbra Chichester.
Well, I grew up in Grenada, of course, but I lived most of my life in Southern California. I'm a registered nurse and with focus on gerontology. And for those who don't know, is the care of the elderly. I've been doing it for over 40 plus years. Mm-hmm. And I now switched and repurposed my life from the illness industry to the wellness industry. And that has been a blessing because with the illness industry, keep seeing the same thing over and over and over. And I felt that I had to do something to impact whatever it is. And I wanted to start forming a healthier society. So hence I became involved in the wellness industry as a lifestyle coach. I don't treat, I don't cure, I don't diagnose or anything. I just share information so you can make a better decision as we go along in our lives.
Yes, wonderful, wonderful. I like that, a transition from illness to wellness. And, it is so important because we all would like to be well. We all want to be well. In fact, I think we all think we are well. until we realize that something is not right, and then we need to refocus and do what has to be done. So we getting in, and Barbara, I'll start with you. We're talking health and wellness. When we speak of wellness, all right, just put it into context for us. What do we mean by wellness? Does it mean, well, oh, I feel strong, I can run 3 miles, I can run 5 miles? Tell us, what is wellness?
Well, for me, wellness could be defined as many things. For me, it's a lifestyle. And with a lifestyle, it's a choice. And I remember one of the gentlemen that own a large company, he always say, you have the freedom to make all the choices you want, whatever you want to eat, wherever you want to go, but you don't have the choice to choose the consequences. Mm-hmm. So lifestyle is really, wellness is really a lifestyle. That's in my definition. So everybody can have the quality of care. Someone who is sick in the hospital and immobilized do have quality of care. But we want quality of life, where we can move around, make choices, and be flexible in society. And that's the difference.
Lovely. So, Dr. Nixon, let me come to you. Health. You're the medical expert here. Let's marry the two. So we know of wellness, and let's marry that with health.
Often when you think of health, you think of sick, right? Mm-hmm. As opposed to sick. But health really is a state of complete physical, emotional, and social well-being. Notice well-being, and not just the absence of disease. So you can actually have high blood pressure and diabetes and be healthy, right? But I do agree with Barbara that wellness doesn't just take into consideration those concepts, but it takes in other things. Because, I've been promoting a lot to your financial state, your social state, apart from your physical state, your mental and your how you live in your community, what's happening there, all the things that are influencing how your body responds to disease. So there's certain things that are constituents of that whole wellness stuff. Your spiritual well-being, your social, your occupational. I mean, you kind of need a work, okay? You need to be occupied. Not necessarily, even if it doesn't give you money, you need something to occupy yourself. If you had $5 billion, probably don't need to earn another cent, but you need to do something in the day to feel a sense of worth, a sense of value, to be somebody. That's one of the things that contributes. The intellectual wellness. Can you learn? Can you make decisions? Can you understand what's going on around you? Your environmental, and of course, your financial wellness. And financial is probably one of the areas that most affects our well-being. People can't do well because they can't take care of themselves. They always under stress. They worry, how am I going to send my kids to school? I'm going for lunch. Oh, it's the 24th. My light bill is due. Water. I still have to pay my children bus fare every day. What's going to happen? Okay? Or you have a bigger thing. Somebody dies in your family, you have to bury it. Where does this money come from? How am I going to earn it? And we all remember in COVID, all that was affected. We didn't have jobs, we didn't have access to our friends, so our social life was affected. Our spiritual life, we couldn't go to church. Yes, we could talk on a phone and pray together. But it's different. Occupational, a lot of people lost their jobs and people couldn't go outside. They just had to stay home. So even if you're accustomed to going and volunteering, that didn't happen. Emotionally, we were in stitches. Physically, some of us had COVID. We watched our parents, we watched our friends die. And all of those components, those elements that contribute to awareness was affected in some way. What did we have? We had mass depression and people with PTSD after their families died and all that. So there was a whole lot of breaking up of that balance that existed if you had those components that contributed to your wellness. Okay? Were we sick? Maybe we didn't have hypertension and diabetes and even COVID, but we weren't well. Our wellness was severely affected. So yes, health takes into thing that balance, but wellness gives it an even more profound understanding, a more profound state, right? Because it takes into consideration all the things that we tend to forget. Does enhance quality of life, as Barbara said, that we are able to live.
Right. So, Barbara, let's get into a lot of the whole wellness issue, and of course, the concept of wellness. It's sort of focused into digging into all the areas of our lives, in an effort to seek balance. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So when you look back, thank you, Dr. Nixon. That was well put together as a little marriage right there. But when you look back years ago, we still had the issue of chronic diseases. That's still, and I have a few stats here that, and that's for 2014. And let's go with diabetes, just to say, because it's 422 million people, more than 30.3 million in the US adults. But the staggering number is the cost. The annual cost of diabetes in the world is more than $827 billion. That's enough potential to bankrupt the government. So when you look at that, they've been talking about that since 2014. We are in 2023. And the behavior hasn't changed. And they keep saying, well, what you need to do when you have chronic condition, weight management, exercise, eat fruits and vegetables and fish. We're in 2023, and nothing really changing. So when you dive in really deep about it, is it the food? You have to ask yourself the question, do we know what's going on in our bodies? Are we learning our bodies? I think we are lacking information on how to care for yourself. You can spend all your money on the things that you do now, but you'll be forced to spend your time on your illness. So you can spend all the stuff you want. But the concern you have is the behavior, really, is how we shop, what we look at. We're in an age where there is more information through social media, so the technology goes up. Then you have the other issue of children and parents and eating. So we focus on technology, but we're not focusing on educating on ingredients. We want to eat like North American. We want that lifestyle. But we have so many resources here that could be used. And I think this is where the issue is. We can't continue to think the same way as we think in 2022 and back, because it's not working. So I always say, for the healthcare industry, it's a big burden. What are we going to do to ease doctors like Dr. Nixon, people who coming into offices and going to the hospital, etc.? But if we do more campaigning on nutrition, but not only that, on how to eat. And I'll give you a quick example. If you go out to a buffet, and I love that scenario, you go out, and I'm just talking to the people out there, because sometimes that's what they need to hear, is the little simple things to get done. You go out and you have a buffet, and you have all these choices. I always share with individuals, you go down and look and see what you have there. Then you can come back in the line to figure out what you're going to choose to consume. So when you start taking all that food and you have a plate, guess what you're doing? You're packing it so high. So I think genetically, we still think we're in starvation mode. So we feel we have to eat and continue to eat so much. If we can modify that behavior a little bit, I think that could be a starting point. But the behavior is something that we need to focus on. Why is this happening so often?
Now, someone, for example, might be physically healthy. You're free from disease. You probably check your doctor. You did your screening and everything, and he says, hey, look, you're fine, no diseases, you're all right. But emotionally, you're not intact. let's make that connection there with being disease-free but emotionally sick, and how does it apply to wellness?
That's for me, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, okay. So I always say we talk so much during the 2020, 21, 22 about the immune system. I focus a little bit on the nervous system. When the nervous system is challenged and stressed because of all what's going on, etc., it takes down the immune system. But the emotional part comes back. A lot of it, not 100%, is the nutrient we eat, the excess amount of glucose we consume. The body only could take a certain amount of glucose, and glucose is in every food: rice, vegetables, fruits, etc. So look at the exercise. You have a beautiful beach, you have parks, you can walk, get fresh air. We drive in more. So when we drive, there's more stress, there are more cars, there's more pollution, there are more chemicals in the food, there are more chemicals everywhere. So it will affect emotionally. And then, as Dr. Nixon talked about financially, that also ties into the wellness. And also with social media, I have to go back to that. You're always in competition. You want to be like that other person. That brings on stress. You want a sense of belonging. You want to form a community. But it's what type of community you want to form. Do you want a wellness community, or you just want to be with the in crowd? So there are a lot of factors there.
You're right. Doc, let me come to you. Now, one can have physical health without enjoying physical wellness. According to the Calypsonian, make sense for us.
I didn't know what you said though.
No, I said yeah. So one can have physical health, but not physical wellness.
Yeah, because Barbara explained half of it. Because it's not just about I don't have high blood pressure. I don't have high. All the factors around you are going to influence eventually how you are physically. At the end of the day, that's how most of it is manifested. Patient walks into my office. Oh, I'm not feeling good. What's been happening? I know, I've been working. No, tell me what's going on. Boy, my children giving me hell. You know, we're in trouble. I feel like I'm going to lose my house because we haven't been able to pay the mortgage and blah blah. Oh, I'm having challenges with my mother-in-law, and you kind of need to prod, because I don't think we taught to think holistically. We're not taught to see our life as something that's global. Your money problem is just a money problem. Right? And your problem with your family is a family problem. Today, my pressure high, or my sugar high, or I'm having period cramps, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. That's a different thing. We don't see it in the context of our bodies being influenced by the environment in which our bodies are found. And unless we're able to think of it that way and think holistically, because I've seen patients, a lot of patients come to my office and at the end of the day, okay, what's going on? What's going on in the office? What's going on? I mean, finished work at all. Oh, that's what's happening here. But people are not able to discern that other things, because we haven't taught them. We haven't spread the message of that your environment is going to influence your health. And so you check up pressure and it's fine, check out that how glucose, it's fine. Everything has to do neurological, whatever you want to do, everything is fine. You say, I don't see anything, but the patient really has a problem that is not tangible or that's not measurable, or that seems not to apply with the context in which you are having the discussion on their health or their wellness. And that is where we miss it. We have to encourage our people, our population, to think that my life is beyond what a sweet can do, what my blood sugar is, that my life has other things. And the fact that my blood sugar probably high because I'm really not coping at work. Maybe I don't like my job. Maybe my boss is bullying me, or somebody else in the office is bullying me. Maybe I'm having challenges when I'm walking home from school in the afternoon. Who knows what's going on, right? But we have to be able to teach people to think holistically so they can look at their life and their wellness as a big, broad spectrum with a lot of different avenues, as Barbara said earlier.
Right. But Doc, I'm getting the listening to both yourself and Barbara, I'm getting the feeling that our mental state has a heavy bearing on our wellness.
Don't talk about that, Barbara.
Yeah.
You're muted, yeah.
Yeah. Our mental state, what you said?
Yeah, no, so I'm saying, listen to yourself and Doc, I'm getting the feeling that our wellness bears heavily now on our mental state, how well we are mentally.
Okay, so Dr. Nixon mentioned something that I'm passionate about, and that's holistic care. I love when you bring all three entities together. So with holistic care is a thought process, and I have been diving into this for probably about the last 10 years. The consciousness of our thoughts, how we view, how we look at ourselves, what we see. So for example, if you tell a society that you have 70% of individuals who have cancer or whatever, different chronic diseases, etc., that is the collective consciousness of society. Now, when you go to a function, people talk about their illnesses. They don't talk about the wellness. Even some, they may have a situation. So I think we don't talk a lot about giving hope. So your thought process is very important, because whatever you think will, with no doubt, manifest to the body. Either with whatever diseases or conditions you have, it will. That's just the law of the universe. So when you look at holistically, if you can structure or have some avenue of how our thought process goes, because if everybody says, you look at it, if everybody has cancer and everybody talk about it, and say I feel something, my breast area, oh my gosh, it feels funny. The first thing I think about is cancer. But why will I have to think that? I know I have dense tissues, because collectively, this is what we are breeding, chronic disease. And that is the conversation. It's like, I tell them, it's like trading baseball cards, who have the best diseases, etc. Why we can't turn that over to wellness? You know something? I may not feel good today, but I could open the windows. I'm grateful. I'm breathing. I can walk the beach. We have so many things. We have the greenery for oxygen. And it's all about the thought process. So if media, social media, keep focusing on the chronic condition, you are going to bring that further up. But why are we not talking about wellness? Okay, you have cancer. You know something? Well, let's take a ride to the beach. Let's go and drive somewhere. Let's have let's get friends around that we can talk, play cards, do something to get that wellness. Because we haven't done it for so long, because this is the first time in history that we are going through this whole shift. But why not talk about wellness more? And Dr. Nixon, you can echo that or add to it.
Yeah, and one of the things I wanted to say, I agree with you, but I also want to remind you that your physical illness also may influence your mental wellness, or not. Your physical wellness also influences how well you feel. How well do you feel? You know, we talk a lot about screening, for example, and people say to you, but I don't have any cancer. I don't know. I want to look and make sure so you can have a good life. So you can do all the things that, let's peep and see. That's what screening is about. take on those things that will influence how you may or may not feel physically. Let's make sure it's not there. And then we can start that holistic lifestyle. Because yes, we really should screen because we know there's a certain predisposition. But screening is not to make sure that it's there. For me, screening is making sure that it's not there. Okay, you go in, you look, if you see an indication, you fix it and make sure it doesn't come. If it's there, you still fix it and go on. But to be able to do all the other influences or allow somebody to have all the other influences on their lives and not just illness, not just unhealthiness. I think another thing that is very important for us to be able to make this paradigm shift is that we need to, our policies, our health policies must also include a broader view. We talk about it all the time. Remember earlier in the year when we were talking about health and all policies, Godfrey?
Mm-hmm.
Every time, if we're building roads, you talk about walking. I don't know if you walk in Springs, but I'm not walking in where I live, okay? Because it's a threat of life and limb, okay? When we're building roads, you must make sure that there are places for us to, safe places for people to walk on the sidewalk even. Or when you're in a community, and I look with pain at those multi-apartment communities that have been established recently, and I've spoken in this forum about it before. It doesn't work for people to park their car much as to walk or to plant a lettuce, right? Those are the things. Are we ensuring that people can be well in their community, they can have well lifestyles, that they can get up and walk, the kids can play and make noise and run up and down and play rounders and bat and ball and break people's window and all those things, and have a little puppy and you can go walk him and you understand, or have 2 sheep in the backyard. Are we having that kind of lifestyle? Because older people, they walk their sheep, they exercise, that's when they do their prayers, that's when they interact with Miss Mary, they walk their sheep or the little puppy and they're on the roadside. Are we creating a society that lends to wellness generally? Do we have a bicycle lane? You know the difference of bicycle lane when we go down to Grand Anse in the morning for people who don't want to sit in the traffic for 5 hours? Are we having waterways from, let's say, Happy Hill to St. George's so we can take up all the traffic on road, or we have waterways from St. George's to Grand Anse so we can take away from the stress people going to work in the south, and there are transportation, everyday legal transportation on a boat that can take you to work for a reasonable price. You don't expect it for free, but that people can get on a boat and go to work instead of sitting in a car for 2 hours, cussing, being in an accident. If there's an accident, you miss an hour work, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. Are we creating an environment, a country where everybody thinks of wellness? We're talking about minimum wage. That's an important factor now, an important issue, because a woman must not go there and work for nobody's house for $200 a week and be able to pay bus to go to work every week and send her 6 children to school and buy lunch and pay rent and throw a little susu and pay electricity and save something to buy school clothes and a little gift when Christmas comes. You know, those are the things. Those are part of it. Mm-hmm. So are you making sure that when you develop policies for all countries development, it takes into consideration all of the people's well-being and eventually their wellness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Those are the things I think we have to start to address as a population.
Right. Now I was doing a little reading, and I just wanted to share something, and I would want to get your comments on it, both you. So it says here, examples of wellness factors might include eating intentionally and as clean as feels mentally healthy for you, choosing to move your body every day in joyful ways, working on your issues so you can experience better relationships, and choosing a career that supports your well-being and influences those around you in healthy ways. Mr. Chester, let's start with you. Your comments on this.
Yeah, in my lifestyle coaching, that's what we focus on. So if I have a group of individuals, we talk about eating. Now, eating is a sacred practice. It is when you're chewing, there's an art of chewing. My mom used to say that also. You chew and chew and chew. So you put the food in your mouth and you put your fork or your spoon down. And you make it into liquid form and you then swallow, so to be easily digested. Because a lot of diseases stem from digestion also, but you don't see it right there and then. So if we start forming little communities, sometimes we get together and we sit, we eat, doesn't matter what it is you cook, and we have healthy conversation. Even some of the conversations may be uncomfortable. The whole idea is coming together. So when we come in, we always talk about where is the solution. We give in hope. We have to give hope. What we are doing today is just not working. We got to think outside the box. So yes, food is sacred. Now, if you start putting food and you chew twice and you swallow, eventually the consequences, you're going to have to pay that price, whether it's 5, 10, 15 years. So all these things we talk about to make sure, because that part of that spirituality or holistic living comes with that wellness. And when you do that, you inspire. So we have small groups, just little pockets of groups, because it's not to say the doctors have to do their job, they have to do the screening, etc. But another component is that spirituality. And I go back, not only the physical, is the thought process. When you're building a house or you're an architect, you have a vision first. We lost that on our vision, what we want to do, what we want to be, how we want to feel. What is our purpose? So these are questions to ask. And in my lifestyle coaching, somebody comes to me, I don't cure anything. I just ask them, what did you have for breakfast this morning? What is your average meal for the day? What do you do? Because I want to get some form of insight on how they are. Most of them don't have breakfast. They have breakfast, they have sweet drink and all that sugary stuff, etc. So all that comes to share with them, educate them about water, about the different foods that we can eat. But we have to deal with it totally different on that holistic level, which will be uncomfortable because it's it's not a new thought process, but now it's time to implement it. Could never go wrong on that.
Well, Dr. Nixon?
Again, I want to say that we almost have to reintroduce our population how to live. People, because of the influences of the media, a lot of us simply have to live like other people live in other countries. Mm-hmm. Do you understand? So if you're going to exercise, you have to have a nice gym outfit, a pretty sneakers. If you're going to walk on the beach barefoot with your t-shirt and your shorts or your dress, you take off your shoes, your work shoes, and walk in your work uniform. You know? We have to reapproach this and the influences that come and apply them to our environment. You know, we're still kind of lucky because we live in a relatively simple environment. And what we have done, we become almost ashamed of the simple, easy things we do. So if I ask somebody, what did you have for breakfast? What did you have for lunch today? Before they tell me they had 2 grains of fig and some salted sauce, they actually look at my face and see if I'm going to think badly about fig and salted sauce. Oh, really? You know, you had fig. Oh, how much grain of fig you had? And then eventually they talk about which fig they like, which banana, which plantain, what they do. Once you make them feel that there's nothing wrong, we've really been driven away from the fact that we actually can live like that. Our grandparents lived like that. They lived like that, and they were relatively healthy. They walked and they went to church and they stopped at Miss Mary to make sure she's okay. And when they get a tuppence from England, they give somebody a penny and say, make sure and buy something for the children. So that person's financial well-being was also taken care of. You're dead. When you're dead, everybody come to your yard and they bring stuff. Nowadays, when people dead, all of us go there looking for rum. No, it's the truth.
Of
right?
course, it is.
We have to get back to that really easy, basic lifestyle where it becomes just a pattern, a cultural thing, but it has to be re-implanted into our community like that. We have to remind our people that living well is something that we can practice, all of us. And your wellness is not mine, right? I might not have to worry about my finances for my child going to school. You may, right? But I might also have to do that. I might have to worry about, I have a bigger mortgage than you, which is a choice, again, like Barbara made in the beginning. Some of the things that we do are choices. You know, even when a young person is going to buy a house, and they probably have a house that's much cheaper that they can buy, but because everybody's living in that area and building that kind of house, they want to have that too. Those are things we have to remind people. If you have a big mortgage, you have 30 years of headache. How is the rest of your wellness? So in all spheres of our lives, every single part of our life, we have to take it into consideration. The actions that I practice, even if I'm the bank manager, am I advising my person to be able to pay his mortgage, right, without stress?
Right.
Am I telling him his truths? Right? So it's something we're all going to have to learn. How do I dispense my own participation in societal existence or societal development, right? That does not create negative influences or negative feelings, negative experiences in the well-being of the population that I serve, or the population within which I live.
Okay, thank you. So let's take a short break. When we come back, I want us to look quickly at the dimensions of health and wellness, and then we can look at how someone can actually improve their health and wellness, and then we'll take some telephone calls. So stay with us, folks. We'll be back with you in just a moment. Don't go away.
Cancer. WeatherGuard Pro. For every project, there's only one Pro.
How going on, boy?
Hey, good old things.
Hey, easy.
Yeah.
Boy, in line, boy. Your house looking a real good day.
Boy, it's thanks to the hard-working and professional staff at the Housing Authority of Grenada. They handled me real nice. They did my plan, they did the construction, and I didn't even have to worry about a thing. They were there with me every step of the way, supervising the job, asking me about my concerns, giving me feedback as the house took shape. They were there from start to finish, and even put the keys in the palm of my hand. I give them an A++ for customer service.
Oh, it's people from housing bad, boy.
Boy, not bad. Excellent. If you're thinking about constructing your home, why not consult the Housing Authority of Grenada? You could visit them right down in the Sandino complex, or give them a call, 440-1015 or 440-1016. Or check out their website, hag473.com. They go handle you. They go jog your blocks, they go draw your plan, they go tote your materials. Hey man, where you going? The Housing Authority of Grenada is your choice for affordable housing and a stress-free construction experience.
After 3 years, get ready for the return of Grenada's most anticipated event, the Hubbards Legends in Concert, Saturday, July 8th, Grenada Trade Center, 7:30 p.m. as the best of Trinidad and Tobago. Come against the best of Grenada in the biggest calypso clash of all times. Saturday, July 8th, Grenada Trade Center, 7:30 p.m. Stay tuned to this station for more info. Drug abuse, cancer,
Measles, diabetes, AIDS, cancer,
Welcome back, everyone. It's Doctor and Call, and this evening we're discussing health and wellness. We have with us Miss Barbra Chichester. She is a wellness coach, health and wellness coach, and of course, Dr. Nixon is with us as always. I want us to talk a little bit now about the dimensions. I mean, we've touched on it, throughout the discourse earlier. But of course, especially the dimensions of wellness. In health, we talk of physical health, mental health, and emotional health. And as it relates to wellness, we talk about body, we talk about food, rest, water, sun, air, mindset, career, relationships, finances, spirituality, purpose. And we did touch on some of these briefly, but I want us to go into some more details. Let's start with, we spoke of food earlier on. Mr. Chester, you spoke about food and eating. Let's talk about rest, the importance of rest as it relates to wellness.
So hold on, before we go, Godfrey, can we also take it across the lifespan as we talk about all of these things? Because I think this is a good time to introduce our young population and on the whole issue of health and wellness. They have a lot of negative influences. And I think we should take, while we're talking now, we must make people aware that this is also about our children. The younger, the better. The earlier they learn this, the earlier they taught how to be well, the better it will be for them. So I just want us to be aware that the things that we're going to discuss does include also not just the adult population, but our children.
Of course, definitely, and I think we can infuse it nicely in the dimensions of wellness. And you mentioned young people, and I mentioned rest. You'll find a lot of young people, they don't want to rest. They're always on the move, here, there, and everywhere. So, Mr. Chester, let's put this into perspective.
Well, I must tell you, when I was younger, I didn't want to rest either.
Well, there we go.
You see, I didn't want to rest. I want to be in every party. I want to go to be in everything. I don't want to miss anything. So, but that's just right? It's just a natural process of resting. I tell you, the time when they start bringing out a lot of, and I go back to food, nutrients. Now, if a young kid, teenager, whatever, is thirsty, they would not go and get water.
That's true.
Because it was never introduced to them earlier. So they will go and get an energy drink, whether it's Coke, whatever it is. And the more they consume that, is the more thirstier they get, and it's the more hyper. You see? So when you look at these drinks, I just get very concerned when you go to the grocery store. What they're picking up is those energy drinks. So so if I wasn't resting and they didn't have that much energy drink, could you imagine them right now? And then they have social media, technology keeps them going at nighttime, etc. So that is why I say sometimes we're beating on a dead horse as far as in my mind, to going back. They cannot go back to what we were doing. We have to find a key indicator, and you have to get them involved. You have to ask them what it is. Most of them don't even know. But if you form little groups, or in school, that may be one of the curriculums they may have to add on nutrients and how nutrition and nutrients, what's the definition of both of them. But I'm telling you, that's it. Just something just came into my mind, but that's not relevant to it anyhow. So, Dr. Nixon.
So relation to nutrition, I think again, the media and marketing and all of those influences have been on us. But you know, my favorite saying is not too late for a shower of rain. Okay, it's been like outside so dry, you can take 10 showers. But the truth is, we have to change the way we teach people to behave. I was reading an article today, just by chance, on how the Swedes, the people in Sweden, I think, yeah, Sweden, we've had we've seen a lot of autism, a lot more than I saw when I was a child, right, Barbara?
Yes,
We never see
absolutely.
this sort of autism. So we've seen a lot of autism. So they chose 300 families who had children with autism and asked them to eliminate certain foods, a whole lot of junk foods. And most of them eliminated almost all of the junk foods. Right? Within 3 years, none of the children showed sign of autism. Boy, this is like 20 years ago. Little boy, like 3 years old, his mother and father would come and says, they don't know what to do with him because he gets hyper. I said, when does he get hyper? Well, if he has X, and sometimes they would give him candies and the certain colors, the yellow and the reds, those two dyes, right, Barbara, how they behave,
Yes,
right?
the dye.
Those two food colorings. And the mother was in the office and she gave him one of the candies. And in 5 minutes, I wanted to tie him down. I've seen my neighbor's little boy as well. Come, they'll give him soda. They give him soda. And in 5 minutes, he just jumps, like something takes him over. That's hard on the child, a child who doesn't have the capacity to contain his behaviors, who is throwing himself from pillar to post, who puts himself at risk of physical injury, who just tires himself unnecessarily, who's not able to enjoy his recreation time. That creates a state of unwellness for him. That is unwellness making him more unwell, right? And if families were to change the way that our food behaviors were, we speak a lot about going back to eating eating what we grow. Guess what? As far as I'm concerned, everybody thinks we grow pasta. What the hell is pasta? Everybody, why do we cook pasta? Because it seems to cook faster. But pasta already cook faster than yam and banana. It doesn't. Right? And if we were to tell people why this is what we're going to do, why we use that so that our children have improved nutrition. So if they have a slice of yam my child doesn't eat fig. And I'm not making my children eat fig. I eat too much fig when I was a little girl. That's how we behave. But the truth is, the difference with eating 1 grain of fig as opposed to eating 6 crackers in the morning, the nutritional difference, the fact that it lasts longer than the 6 crackers, the fact that, and if it's sweet biscuit, worse yet, the fact that you have fiber, you have the right kind of starch, you have vitamins and stuff in that 1 grain of fig, and you eat that even with a boiled egg or a piece of meat or something, and your child has food until his next major meal, which might be break time, when he has something light and you run up and give him a fruit. And how much it prevents childhood obesity. And how childhood obesity prevention will prevent hypertension and diabetes in adults and even in young adolescents and young adults. So we have to make it holistic. Let us say, if we cook like that at home, our children are going to be fine. I met a little girl yesterday who does not drink sodas. You know why? She was breastfed exclusively for almost 3 years. She does not appreciate sweet. She does not appreciate sweet. She's slim. She's relatively healthy. She had a little fever because everybody picked up a virus. She does not drink sweet because her parents never gave her. When you drink milk in a tin full of sugar, when they give you formula, the nice tin of formula, I'm not going to call any names, but it has it tastes sweet, it's sugar. Breast milk doesn't taste like that. That child does not drink soda. I was so impressed. She doesn't, because she doesn't appreciate the taste of sweet stuff. Right? It has to be, wellness has to be practiced within that nuclear element, the family, where all of us eat like this. And you grow up eating like that. You grow up behaving like this. You grow up sleeping at these hours, right? Why families are afraid to implement sleeping hours for their children? So mommy and daddy go to bed and children up watching on their handheld devices, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3. You know what sleep deficit does for our children? or doesn't do, right? So we have to create we have to empower our families, the unit where people live, to practice that wholesomeness. Going for a walk together, playing ring a rosy in the yard, playing all kind of fools, shandy dandy in the veranda, whatever it is, dance and sing and the whining games and stuff. And it doesn't have to be expensive, because that's one of the things we want to remind people, that living a wellness lifestyle doesn't have to cost us a lot. And we live in a country that's very natural.
Right.
But Barbara, I'm going to let you go.
Yeah, I want to add something that's important. And I found this, and the amount of, I'm going to list out the amount of, the back noise, the amount of sugar that are in ingredients. So high fructose corn syrup, maize syrup, glucose syrup, fruit fructose, crystalline fructose. Then you have artificial sweeteners like aspartame, sucralose, saccharin. Then you have maltose, dextrose, galactose, sucrose, fructose. These are all sugars in the food. So how do we control that? That's a manufacturing problem. This is stuff that are imported onto the island. What do we do with all these sugars that's in our food? And these are hidden, because what's on the label does not mean it's there. And what's not there is in there. So how do we address that? And when you talk about autism, etc., and you have a whole bunch of stuff also. So this is the issue. What are we importing? We want to import everything out there, but look at what's in there. So a child wants, the parents think they're doing well because they see, a lovely coconut, a can with coconuts and looking tropical, and they say it's natural. But when you look, you see all these ingredients. It's no longer natural, it's processed. So come back to education. What are we doing? What are we importing for our children? Go ahead.
So we struggled last year and 2 years ago and just before COVID. And we discussed this earlier in the year, Godfrey, and I want to bring it up again tonight because it's something that's kind of dear to my heart and really bothers me, the fact that we have voted against front of package labeling. So there is the thing with the black hexagon that says high sugar, high fat, high salt, right? As a last ditch effort to dissuade people from buying what's in the supermarket. And Grenada voted no against front of package labeling. And Grenada voted no because the interest, the people who sell stuff, the wholesalers, the people who are like supermarkets and stuff, I forgot what they call them, the merchants, okay? They were the ones voting. And Grenadian population needs to hear about this and understand. This is something that's going to be talked about again over and over. Selling to our population, you can't, world trade doesn't allow us to stop import or say we're not importing this or we're not importing that, unless it's really, well, it is really toxic, but there are limitations as to what you can stop from being traded across borders, okay? But we have to give the consumers, the people, the community, the ulterior power to decide whether or not they're going to buy, whether or not they're going to consume those things that are bad for us as a population, those things that affect our health in such bad ways. So when you get to there and you see a black hexagon, like a stop sign, right? And it says high salt, you're able to make a decision, because part of it is that consciousness we all have to come into. What choices, again that word, what choices am I making for myself and my family so that we can all be in a state of wellness? Again, it's not only food, but in this instance, what choices? We're going to have to, because Guinea is going to have to say, look, we want our population to make good choices when they get to the market. So we're going to accept this, but that we'll talk about in another forum.
Right. So I want us to move on a little bit. Let's talk about career and relationships as it relates to wellness. Mr. Tester, you can start.
You mean like I want to walk?
Um, well, it depends. It depends on the career that you choose. Sometimes, depending on the career, it can have a negative or positive impact on your wellness. And this is where I want us to
that's
take
what I
the
was-
discussion.
And that is what I was coming to. You know, because of our economic state and the fact that jobs are not there a dime a dozen, they're just not all over there. A lot of people settle for what is there, and they're unhappy. They're unwell in their jobs. And then when you go to the ministry, excuse me, or you go to an office and you want to transact a business, the lady in front of you is really rude to you, not because she wants to be rude, but because you just really don't want to be here. This is not what I'd rather be doing. People find themselves in places that creates a lot of stress for them, a lot of unhappiness, and often they would pass it on to other people, not intentionally, but this is because my mind is unhappy. I'm not feeling good today. I'm not feeling good once I walk in this place. I don't know what I'm doing here. But again, how does the government, the leaders, the planners for the country ensure that people can find the jobs they want? Ensure that they get paid according to what they're worth. How many people with a bachelor's degree have a regular run-of-the-mill job simply because there are no jobs? So that is one of the things. That whole I want to say job safety, but I want to say it in a wider sense. That whole professional satisfaction that we expect to experience doesn't always happen for many reasons. And that's something that's going to have to be looked at a policy level. Barbara.
Barbara, your comments?
Yeah, I was just saying the truth. That area I have not dived into that much, so I don't want to comment on something that I really have not really looked into.
Right. Let's look at so career is very important. But Dr. Nixon, you mentioned the scarcity of jobs as it relates to what people may feel comfortable doing. But what about the importance of self-development, which can also aid to your wellness? Because if you don't take the time to develop yourselves, you might find yourself always having to take what you get rather than have been able to make a choice, because you are in a position to do so. And that can also take us to one of the other dimensions, that of relationship. We know how relationships can actually break people. Let's talk a bit about that.
Relationships?
Yes. As it relates to wellness.
But Barbara, you want to go first on this one?
No, I'll let you go first, dear. Go ahead.
Look, human beings are social beings, okay? And there are a lot of thoughts that we have, preconceived thoughts. We're growing up, we believe everybody has to get married, everybody has to live in a house up on a hill, everybody has to have XY, you must have a boyfriend. If you go to school and you don't have a boyfriend, if you're not cute, you're not going to have a boyfriend, they're going to bully you, and all the rest of it. The truth is that human relationships are very important. And there are lots of things that can affect how we relate. My mental state, as per whether I'm mentally well or not, my emotional state as to whether I'm emotionally and psychologically prepared to be interacting with other people, which may be a reason of my mental state or other things. There are a lot of influences, but we also have a lot of hang-ups. And you see it that the young women who are not married are maybe treated differently, are considered different. That's not good. We see us telling our boys, they can have their cocks, man, you can do whatever you want, do this, do that, do the other. They can have 6 girlfriends. Whereas that's an unhealthy situation, not only for the girl, but also for the young men who lose their centering, their emotional centering, who fail to understand that, yeah, I can be in a relationship if I'm committed. If it doesn't work out, we move on. But they feel they have to have 6 and they don't get the satisfaction they're looking for. And they keep looking, almost like if you're taking drugs. You keep looking. And you never ever get that satisfaction that you you set out to get or you may have had at one stage in your life. So human relationships are things that we need to visit. We also need to create in the workspace environments where we can sort out our differences. Always different. Me and my brothers fight all the time. You and your sister, them quarrel and are different. Barbara and her sister, they have differences, right? But it's how do you resolve? And we find a lot of time we have leaders in our community, in our workplaces, who don't know how to resolve conflict. Conflict will arise. If you work in a small space, conflict arises because of physical proximity of people. How you manage the conflict and the differences is a different story. Who leads it on? Who leads the environment is a different story. So there's a lot of beef going on. Even in school, is a teacher fair to the children who have a difference? Or is it because Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so's daughter is their friend, or they give a little extra to the school, they're going to let them slide with the breaking of the rules or the disrespecting of the poor girl who comes and we went to call and say, you know, uniform have to look spick and span every morning like it just come from the laundry. But are you going to treat the child who have to walk the hour to school or the 40 minutes to school, who get uniforms, get sweaty and it stinks a little? Are you going to treat her differently because that's just her circumstance? So the human relations are very important. How do you relate to how one person treats you? How do you treat a person? How do they treat you? Those are a lot of the things that you have to consider. And I've seen, today I was talking to a young lady and it broke my heart because I listened to her. I have seen how we treat each other badly in Grenada. We treat each other badly on the road. A guy licked a woman's car in front of me the other day and started to cuss her. I told her, no, stop, let me call the police, right? Cuss her, hit her car, turn on the road, hit on the side of her car and start to cuss her. And then somebody in the car started cussing her. And the poor lady have to cuss in front of her like a 5-year-old. Why? We have to get to a point where we learn to respect each other as human individuals. People with the same needs, the same emotions, the same desires to be respected and to love and to be cared for. All of us are like that. We might manifest our needs differently. We might acquire differently, but all of us need that basic thing. And Barbara spoke about that basic self, that thing of feeling like I'm somebody, right? That deep sense of self. We have to be able to get to that point because there's always going to be mental illness. There's always going to be stress. There's going to be PTSD and depression and the rest of it that comes with it.
Okay, wonderful. Wonderful indeed. Barbara, anything you'd like to add here before we move on?
Hey, talk about self-development. I think we've gotten away from reading, a lot of reading. We got away from it. And again, we have to acknowledge that we're in a different time. So we now have to filter into the time that we exist in now, because you can't ask the generation now to go back. We have to find some strategy in how to get to them. Mm-hmm. So if, like my son, I always remember he never liked reading at school. So someone, my old boss told me, buy him magazines. So he liked to look at magazines with cars. So magazines are expensive, but it was worth buying it for him because the whole idea when he got out from high school, my goal is to make sure he can read. I don't care what he's reading, but for me, I was structured, got to be the schoolwork. Well, by reading a magazine, which was very hard, every time you go to the grocery, they got to buy magazines for him. But that's the only way to get his attention to start reading. So I had to find a way. And I must say it has been successful. He graduated from high school and he's reading well. Mm-hmm. So I had to go into his reality and not force what I had learned from school, from previous generations. I had to go into his world where he's at. So that's what we do in the coaching, is to get into the other world, but in a small group. Mm-hmm. And so with him, I told other parents the same thing. I don't know how far it went, but the fact remained, we had a conversation in a small group.
Right, wonderful. So, final part of our discussion, how can someone improve their well-being or their wellness. What are some of the tips or pointers you may give to someone, Barbara, to help them to improve on their wellness?
I go back to thought process. That's where I work on, is the thought. A lot of us, I don't know your dominant thought. I'm looking at you, but I really don't know how you feel. I have no idea. So I work on that part. I don't work on it, but we talk about it. And the wellness for me is creating that holistic life. But what does that mean? And your spirituality, have your church involved, whatever religion you practice. But I go back to nutrients and sharing with them how to read your labels, because it is important, because they got to consume. How to rest well. What do you do? Do you spend more time eating out, or do you cook at home? Are you eating the green leafy vegetables that are available for you cohesively with the family, whether it's grand, I don't care how the family structure is together. But my wellness is based, for my life coach, is nutrition. Nutrients is what you eat. Nutrition is what begins on a cellular level. So I share cellular nutrition, and that's where my passion is in the scope of things. Because if you get someone who's really healthy and also focus on their nervous system, how you think, what you see, what are your fears. But I don't want to dive deep into that, but I want to focus with them on nutrition.
Okay, wonderful. Dr. Nixon, choosing a healthy or wellness lifestyle can increase your health or improve your health. Your comments. You're muted. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, there was a bike passing a while ago. Yes. Choosing a wellness lifestyle will improve your health. But we also need to guide our population about what is wellness lifestyle is. Okay, because we can always get spilled over, but we have to guide our population. And I agree that we need to, I agree with that. We kind of need to look at it bigger than just nutrition, and other things. Because when I speak about health, and I use that World Health Organization, not just the absence of, right? I take into consideration other things. Your physical, yes, but your emotional, you make enough money. Or you're in your community, do you feel safe? All of those things, all of those social things that influence your quality of life. It's going to have to be on the big agenda, because if this gets onto the big agenda and we can focus on wellness, guess what's going to happen? We're not going to be as sick, and it's going to cost us less money as a government, as healthcare providers. It's going to cost us less to keep people well. It is going to cost us less to make sure that people are not sick. Do you know what I'm saying? And even when people get sick, they wouldn't get as sick, because there's so much focus on staying good, on being okay. Because like I say, you can have diabetes, but you don't have to be sick. You don't have to be unwell. Right? You have diabetes, you do what is necessary. You eat properly, you exercise, you take care of stress, you check your thing, you do your sugars, you check your toes as a means of processing. How do I contain my blood sugar? Right? How do I maintain my wellness, my being well? Right? But we have to teach people all these things. It's not just, you need to take a sugar. Sugar must be less than X. No, it goes a little further than that. We kind of need to soften up the whole thing as to how people live okay. We're gonna have, like I said, we're also going to need to make sure that people have safe homes and they have good water. I mean, Sahara does going to kill us with yellow water, but boil your water and, make sure you take your vaccines to prevent disease and all of those things. We shouldn't be worrying about, there's measles, God. I don't know. I'm not sending my children to school because I didn't vaccinate. We haven't had measles because we've been vaccinated and all of those things. So we have to teach people how to embrace the facilities that are around for them to not have disease, for them to not get sick, by focusing on using the environment that's around us changing their lifestyles, improving themselves, and staying well.
Indeed. Barbara, anything you would like to add?
No, I think we covered that. I think we.
Right. So our telephone line is open. The number is 435-2041. Our listeners, if you have any questions that you would like to ask, you can do so now. The number is 435-2041. We have a few minutes where we can take a couple calls and, of course, address your questions, or if you have any comments you would like to make, we can definitely do so now. One quick thing, though, that I meant to ask, and maybe we touched it briefly, but in the area of wellness, as it relates to the mindset of the individual, how important is that, and what kind of mindset should someone have so that they can enjoy good well-being or wellness, enjoy wellness?
Intentional. I think it's like you're going to a function and you want to go and buy a dress. You're intentional about it. You prepare yourself. I think we have not learned how to prepare our inner self. We focus so much on the outside. We don't prepare our inner self. Again, I go back with the consciousness, thought process, etc. So the wellness, you get up in the morning, you should have an idea what you want to eat, what you want to consume, where you're going to go. You have what kind of job you have, what you're going to plan for lunch. I think it's intentional because it's your body is sacred. And I really think we are losing that part of it where we just get up sporadically. But if there's a function, we are very meticulous. When we're buying a house, we're intentional about those material items. We pay a lot of attention. But when it's for ourselves, we put anything. As I say, if you have a Rolls Royce and you went to the dealer and you say you put high octane gas, because it's a Rolls Royce, it's a luxury. Why can't we think our body's a luxury and feed it and learn about it, just as how we learn about how to take care of that Rolls Royce?
Right.
And I just wanted to make that analogy simple for people to realize the body is sacred. We need to feed it, nourish it, and protect it. That's our obligation, but also it's a choice, again.
Okay, wonderful. So we're getting close to wrap up time. Dr. Nixon, anything here you would like to add? There was one area I think that we probably, I skipped the area of spirituality and wellness.
Oh, I must talk about spirituality?
Yes, you can talk about that.
Spiritual girl to you?
Yes, you always talk about the church, and you go to church and you don't miss your service.
Spirituality has nothing to do with the church.
You always talk about that.
It's a good place. You know, it's funny because when Barbara was speaking a while ago, what came to my mind was leadership. And leadership within the churches in particular is what over my head. Well, first of all, the Ministry of Health has extended itself into the Ministry of Health and Wellness. And I know there's a lot of focus. And I really hope that when the plans are laid out, it does take into consideration that very broad spectrum outlook on our population's well-being, on our population's health. Not just the fact that we don't have disease, but that we're well. Everything is good. Everybody's focusing on the things they need to do. I'm not smoking, not because I'm diabetes. I'm just not smoking. I will not stop smoking. My children are not going to smoke. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to make sure I drink enough water. No, I don't want any sodas. Thank you. Alcohol, maybe I'll have a glass of wine, but not necessarily. All of those things. And I hope the Ministry of Wellness is able to articulate it in that way that all of us need to be doing this. But I thought of the church as a space. You know, I saw a gentleman last week about an event we're supposed to be planning. And I told him about the human body as the temple within which the Spirit of the Lord dwells. For us who are Christians and Trinitarian Christians, But the Lord dwells within us. Are we gonna? I mean, we build a nice house for ourselves. Aren't we gonna make a nice house for the Spirit to dwell into? Are we gonna make it have clean rooms and air and freedom from clogged up arteries and blind eye and 1 foot and all of that? Do we want the Spirit to dwell within something that's broken down? And then how are we communing with that deep part of us? I met a man several years ago who was going to kill himself by suicide. I was on duty. I worked in a mental health institution. I was called a Saturday morning, and I got in, and the nurse mentioned this man had been thinking of dying by suicide. And we talked, and he had everything. He was a senior manager in a big international bank, with $400,000 a year, US, lived well, had everything, was married. He didn't have any children, but he was married, and his wife had children, grown children, blah, blah, blah. Fine, but he wanted to die. He wanted to die because he felt he had not accomplished. And after I chuckled at him, I said, we talk about that. On the ward, he was not my patient. We spent a lot of time talking. And this is Saturday, I admitted. And on Tuesday, I said to him, tell me about your relationship. Tell me about he was British. And I said to him, tell me about your relationship with God. He says, well, I grew up in the Church of England, but I don't go to church. I said, that's not what I'm asking. Mm-hmm. Tell me about, where do you go in the morning? Where do you find that centering? Or in the night, where do you find that thing that folds you back and puts you in a bed? Who do you go to? Who do you sit under? I'm not trying to go pray or read the Bible. I'm not saying anything. That thing to which only you are linked, that sphere in which you find yourself. And he says, I don't have that. And I said to him, he worked in the bank, and the bank usually have a letterhead, and then at the bottom they have like names on it, right? Mm-hmm. And I asked him if his name was there, and he said, then the bank don't belong to you, so you need to focus on your life. And I asked him to go take his bicycle and exercise in the morning for half hour. And I asked him to go on a vacation. I'm treating somebody who's suicidal. And I asked him he saw me drinking this smoothie, and he was a little overweight, and he started drinking this smoothie. He says, you need to give me the recipe for that smoothie. And I did. And I asked him to journal. And I asked him to find a place where he sent us. Find that spirit. We call it God, other people call it other things. That you sit and you commune with in the morning. And interestingly, because you don't put people who have suicidal thoughts. And he had intentions. He told me 2 days later when I asked him, when were you planning to do it? He told me, I said, that's exactly what I meant, because I know you were going to do it. He was going to wait on Sunday when everybody was taking a serious and hang himself in the closet. That was his plan, very well formulated. Okay? And I said to him, you have to put back your life at the center of your own life. And that's what I do. 3 months later, he calls me. Didn't even remember this guy because I'd gone to work in another department. And he called and he wanted to see me. And he says, I didn't even recognize me. He lost 30 pounds from drinking my smoothie, which I should brand and sell, but 30 pounds he lost. He was cycling every morning. He was meditating every morning. He said, I'm praying in the morning. Cannot believe this. I feel good. I'm well.
Mm-hmm.
3 months, and he was discharged from the clinic. You don't discharge suicidal people 3 months from a clinic. 3 months, and he was discharged from the clinic because he had gathered up so much of himself and taken himself to this high place of being very well. He had money to go on yacht and go whatever, boating, we call canoeing, and do all those things that cost a lot. But just getting on riding his bicycle in the morning made all the difference in his life. Mm-hmm. And those are the kind of options we're going to have to give to our population, that they can create that sphere of wellness with the things that are around them. That's what we're going to have to do.
Yes, indeed. Just one quick comment, and maybe Doc, this one is more for you from on our WhatsApp platform, and someone says, "Good night, doctor. I have a problem. I go to the hospital on a regular basis for a certain problem. However, there is a doctor who's in the outpatient clinic. She's very rough. As a surgeon, she needs to be more gentle and more polite with her patient. The way she speaks to people, it is not good. Whenever I see her, it makes me wonder. I have been to many doctors before, and I feel comfortable to sit and listen, but right now I cannot say that." So I just...
You want me to comment on that? No, and I'll comment honestly.
Yeah.
it's unfortunate that this lady or whoever it is I guess it's a female, whoever it is,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
has that experience when she goes to get well. And so we as caregivers have a responsibility to self-regulate. So imagine Barbara is a wellness coach, right? And I go to her and she and Pat have a fight the morning before, and she come and she said, look, today I don't have no set of time. I have no time. I can't go. What happened to you today? Where's the stuff I was asking to do last time? And she comes. You can't appreciate that. You can't go forward. So as caregivers, we have a responsibility to be self-regulated. We learn to leave our crap at home before we came to work. We have to leave it. And it's unfortunate because maybe that person also needs some support.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We don't know what is it that makes them behave like that. Maybe the person who gives care is overwhelmed. We know what the system is. We know that the system usually they work is untenable for the most part. So the person may perceive, the person who gives care may perceive that you come harass them. You come here every 2 weeks. What you coming for again? You're supposed to know how to do this by now. I'm not saying that's what it is, but I'm saying maybe that's how they formulated their response. So maybe here we have a colleague who also needs some support. Because they have their own challenges that they're not able to deliver to the person what they need to be well. So I'm really very sorry that the lady's having this experience. But maybe she has a challenge. If she worries, she can write a letter to the medical director and say, I think I feel unhappy when I see this doctor, and that the doctor makes her feel, very sad and feel bad about herself. Because that will also influence how much you adhere to the treatment that you're going to
get. Yes, it does. And of course, on that note, well, we have to leave it here. That's all the time we have for this evening. So, Barbara, 1 minute to make any closing remarks that you would like to.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. And I hope, between Dr. Nixon and myself that you got some valuable information. And just remember, health health is determined primarily by what you eat. It's really very true. Mm-hmm. And wellness, again, is your lifestyle, how you intentionally move through a holistic way of life, and you can formulate that according to your demographic or your family dynamics, etc., to suit you. Mm-hmm. But wellness, if you talk more about wellness, I think the consciousness of wellness starts to be a great conversation.
Thank you very much. Dr. Nixon, your final thoughts?
So again, I'm going to reiterate the fact that this is just health first. And I'm going to be very practical. There are a lot of things going on. We still have a lot of respiratory illnesses. We still have a lot of, we have gastro, we have dengue. There's dengue is on the uprise, so kill a mosquito here. They're not good to eat. And if you don't have bats around where you live, mosquitoes are going to be flying all over the place. Remember not to collect water. I know people need to collect water, but please make sure that the water that you collect now in this dry season is covered. You wash out your plants that you have in water and stuff. And make sure we don't have any places that water is stagnant so that mosquitoes find a place in which to breed. Some people are getting a little bit of rain. One drop of water is all a mosquito needs to breed and to have its larvae out as young mosquitoes biting us. There is dengue. Remember, dengue is also cousin to chikungunya and Zika, and they are endemic diseases. They're around. So let's make sure that we don't have any Aedes aegypti around to spread this again. So that's one point of wellness. And the second point of wellness, please boil your water well. Boil very well, very, very well, because there's Sahara dust, because all water that we collect is superficial water from the rivers, and all of it can be filtered out. So if you have a filter at home in your pipes, that's okay. But for drinking, please make sure that you boil the water, put it to settle, and then take the water on top so that the sediments would go down to the bottom. Right. That's two. There's something else, but I'll come back to that. So, look, we said a lot tonight, and every week we've been asking you to take one thing out of what comes, one thing out of what comes out of our program, and implement it in your own life and that of your family's life. Look, everybody have this thing, my favorite instrument. Google what is wellness, what are the components of wellness, and find something that your family can work on. Make it a family project, make it a personal project. to say, I am going to improve my health by walking 15 minutes. I'm going to improve my health by making sure I do my prayers. I'm going to improve my health by making sure I improve my relationship. I'm going to improve my health by making sure that I break down all those negative relationships that I have. I'm going to improve my health by make sure that I my wellness by making sure that I'm prepared for the workplace in which I find myself, right? And if you don't like the workplace, leave so that you don't make other people sick, right? Find a way that you can improve your present wellness, right? Find a way that you can improve your present wellness. It's hot. Drink a lot of water. It's everybody's irritable. Don't pay them buy them water, coconut water if they're quarreling in the office. But it's just really just hot and people are irritable. Right? Let's support each other. Let's understand that we have to get through all of this together. And let's focus on being better when we get to the end of the tunnel. It must be a better world for all of us. That's why we're here every Tuesday night, trying to make our worlds better. I don't want what's happening this week. Nothing
this week. Well,
last week was lupus.
Yes.
And we didn't get a chance to talk about lupus. It's a pity because we really should, because it is one of the chronic situations.
Well, we will.
That really bother us.
The truth is, we don't need any particular time to speak on it. It's something that needs to be spoken of.
Yeah, we will speak about it on another occasion.
Yes.
It's going to be a long, hot summer, so we're going to sit in here chatting.
Definitely.
All right.
So
thank you. And Barbra, it's really a pleasure sharing this platform with you. Thank you. It's good seeing you again after all these 5 years since we see each other, since we went to convent.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
So thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, Barbra. Thank you for coming again on short notice. We thank you very much for sharing such valuable information with us, and of course, Dr. Nixon, thank you very much. I just want to leave folks with you. We spoke about health and wellness, and as it relates to your health, you need to pay attention to your physical, your mental, and emotional health. As it relates to your well-being, there are a number of things you need to pay attention to. Your body, the food you eat, you need to rest. Water, very important. Sunlight, the air you breathe, your mindset, your careers, when you're choosing, choose well. Your relationships, very important. Your finances, very, very important. Your spirituality, and be sure to have a good purpose in life. And if you pay attention to that and you do what you're supposed to do, you will be healthy and you will be well. That's our program this evening, folks. Thank you very much. Join us next Tuesday for another Doctor and Call. All the best.
Good evening, everyone.
Yes.
Drug abuse, cancer,
measles, diabetes, AIDS, cancer,
Doctor and Call was brought to you with the kind compliments of Hills and Valley